Well, I would file this under red alert. I have to admit, this was not on my radar. After I saw it come across the newswire last night, I did some research and it looks like some people have been following this for several months. But did you know, starting in just 35 days, just in 4 weeks, you will be tracked. Google will start tracking every single device, including TVs and gaming consoles. This is why we don't have, this is why monopolies are bad. This is absolutely bonkers. The way that people's data is out there. Now Google's going to have access to literally everything. This story is absolutely bonkers. Let's get you up to date. Huge shout out to Aura on this though, because Aura is a product that I've actually been using for a very long time. It's an incredible tool to protect yourself against data breaches, against your data getting out there. Think about a time when a company that you trusted announced a data breach. It practically happens every other week, right? Involving your personal information. What went through your mind as you processed that? Remember back when National Public Data had their data breach? 2.9 billion records, including all of your social security numbers, hit the dark web. That's a real thing. You can look it up. That happened just a few months ago. Well, it was then when I got Aura, and not shortly after, I had them as a sponsor because I actually love the product. Aura gives you a data broker opt-out, will help you remove your personal information from the internet. So, ongoing, anything that's out there they'll remove. Identity theft protection with up to $5 million in identity theft in insurance in case something bad happens. Financial fraud protection. It has a VPN, antivirus. It has literally everything you need to protect your identity. I'm not leaving myself or my family vulnerable to data breachers and data brokers. And if you don't want to either, go to aura.com/thequartering or use the link in the description for 2 weeks free. Sign up for the trial. See how much stuff they find. It's crazy how much they find. I've been using it, and they've been slowly removing a lot of stuff from the internet. Makes me feel a lot better. In 2 weeks, that's enough time for them to figure out what data has been exposed. Again, that's aura.com/thequartering. Now, this article, Google starts tracking all of your devices in just 6 weeks. Forget Chrome and Android. Ironic spat this week in the world of big tech. Google went after Microsoft for its, quote, long history of tricks to confuse users and limit choice. Less than 3 weeks after that, it was accused of reducing people's choice and control over their information and how it's collected in response to its new plan to digitally fingerprint users' devices now. Not just Android, not just Chrome. The usual targets of such criticism. That tracking is now just 6 weeks away. Two unrelated stories, barely 2 weeks apart, and yet not really unrelated at all. The common theme is that users are pawns subject to the whims of staggeringly expensive ecosystems they rely on each and every day. Google slammed Microsoft after the Windows maker was caught spoofing the Google homepage when users search for Google on Bing. Windows' latest was first to spot the spoof and describe it as a genius move to keep you from Google search. Bing has been featured before Microsoft versus Google stakes playing out across Windows PCs, and it has mostly been Chrome versus Edge. And by the way, Edge is actually a pretty good browser. I mean, I use Brave, but Edge is actually better than most people think. And not too many months ago, the iMaker released a video inspired by Hitchcock's The Birds, essentially warning that iPhone's users to steer clear of Chrome. That was a clear attempt from Microsoft to make Bing look like Google for the specific search query, reported The Verge. The Google result includes a search bar. So the spoof thing, I don't care about that. That seems like good business. But here, Chrome and Google search are not one and the same, albeit they both carry privacy risks. And that's why these iPhone users are better using Google search within Safari than Chrome, albeit that becomes much less the case if you're logged into a Google account as so. But Chrome doesn't play a leading role in the latest Google tracking warning that hit the headlines just before the holidays. Notwithstanding that Google has hogged the bulk of Google's tracking headlines in the recent years, with cookies and incognito mode getting busted for not actually. Did you remember that? I reported on that. Incognito mode actually isn't on incognito and it still tracks you. As its privacy sandbox, playing reoccurring roles. The latest issue started when Google pushed out an update to its advertising ecosystem. The changes said has been prompted by the broader range of surfaces on which ads are served, such as TVs, gaming consoles, tablets, and so on and so forth, and meaning they will be less perceptive with partners on how they target and measure ads. Fingerprinting is not just a browser issue anymore. Quote, "This is digital fingerprinting across devices. Fingerprinting involves the collection of pieces of information about a device software or hardware, which when combined can uniquely identify a particular device and user." So not only will they know who you are, but they'll know which of your many devices that you're on. I don't remember agreeing to this, and I don't even need to go down the dark road of how this could be taken advantage of, how this could be abused by the government. The ICO's view is that fingerprinting is not a fair means of tracking users online because it's likely to reduce people's choice and control over how their information is collected. The change to Google's policy means that fingerprinting could now replace functions of third-party cookies. Now, that's, of course, why they want to get rid of that, because they know people are focusing on cookies. This also, of course, will apply to YouTube. They're going to know who you are, what YouTube videos you're watching, and which device you're watching them, and when you're watching them. Imagine that. I don't really find that very comforting. I mean, given the nature of these devices and that users will not realize what's taking place, there are serious implications. Identity Week warns that organizations using Google's advertising tech can now implement fingerprinting without violating Google's policies and complying with requirements of data protection law. Fingerprinting is so hindering to privacy expectations because it relies on signals that are not easy to wipe. Even if data is, quote, permanently deleted, fingerprinting biometrics could still detect and recognize your identity. Interesting parallels between this and the return of digital fingerprinting, which is infamously difficult for a user to even detect. You know how normally when you would get like a cookie, it would pop up and say, "Oh, do you accept cookies? This website uses cookies. Do you accept that?" Da 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 da. They don't even ask that anymore, right? They just say, "Here's your," you don't even know, and now they're tracking you and collecting your data. This is an unprecedented new leak of user location data, and also, which infamously difficult for you to detect, and an unprecedented new leak of user data, which also exposes a vast array of apps collecting data from users' devices. The Gravy Analytics leak highlights the sheer scale of the location data industry, another user tracking ecosystem that takes place behind the scenes and is difficult to detect, and which most users would likely disable if they knew about it or could. As 404 Media puts it, in the Gravy Analytics, news is crystallizing moment for the location data industry. For years, companies have harvested location information from smartphones, either through ordinary apps or the advertising ecosystem, and then built products based on the data and sold it to others. In many cases, those customers include the US government, but collecting that data presents an attractive target to hackers. So now, just to summarize, they know who you are, what app you're using, what YouTube video you're watching, when you're watching it, where you're watching it, and what time you're watching it. Did you agree to that? I didn't agree to that. What I suspect will prompt users to sit up and take notice, and this is why if you made it this far in this video, please share it on X. Please share it on X, share it on Facebook. People need to know about this, and we need to stop it. What I suspect will prompt users to sit up and take notice more on the scale of the leak is the number of popular apps contributing their data in the first place. Candy Crush, Tinder, MyFitnessPal, all share their users' data, sell their users' data. The thousands of apps hijacked to spy on your location, some of the world's most popular apps are likely being co-opted by rogue members of the advertising industry to harvest sensitive location data on a massive scale. There are various lists of these apps now going around. Suffice to say, it's extensive. Per Wired, it includes dating sites, Tinder and Grindr, Massive games such as Candy Crush, Temple Run, Subway Surfers, and Harry Potter, Puzzles and Spells. Transit app Move It. My period calendar. Period tracking app with more than 10 million downloads. Popular fitness app, MyFitnessPal. Social media network, Tumblr. Yahoo's email client. Microsoft 365's Office app. Flight tracker. Religious focus apps such as Muslim prayer. I don't care about that one. And Christian Bible app. Various pregnancy trackers, and many VPNs, which some users may download, ironically, in an attempt to protect their privacy. So even VPNs are sharing your data. This is absolutely bonkers, okay? Users don't like being tracked behind the scenes, and that's why the Gravy leak made headlines and why digital fingerprinting is doing the same. And there's just a new twist reported by Reuters. Google has failed to persuade a federal judge to dismiss a privacy class action lawsuit, claiming it connected private personal data from people's cell phones after they switched off the button to stop tracking. This may lead to yet another trial this summer. It allows Google's destruction of billions of data records last year in the wake of similar lawsuit relating to data collected while Chrome was in incognito mode. So they're already tracking you when you're in incognito mode. They're tracking you when you specifically use your Android phone and say, I don't want to be tracked. I assume this is probably also true of iPhone. I mean, it sure would be nice to have an X phone or a Tesla phone that has none of this. I would pay more, literally. I would literally pay more long term to make sure I am not tracked in this fashion. This is absolutely bonkers, and it absolutely has to stop. Make sure you share this out there. We only have 6 weeks to stop it. I hope you were informed by this video. If you were, please do leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.